Hey guys, this is Dr. Ruth Roberts. I hope you're having a happy new year and you're off to a great start for both you and your pets. So this is the time where we all start to make resolutions and want to make sure that we're doing better in our own lives. One of the things I'm going to commit to this year is to doing an Ask the Vet session once a week. So the other thing I wanted to remind you about, I know the audio last week was not that red hot because I was sort of in an airport and stuck traveling. But what I talked about was my dog Arnold. And Arnold had a very long life, the last 6 months of which were not too red hot. He lived to be about 17, which is amazing for an English setter. But he inspired me to start learning some additional things. So he inspired me to go to acupuncture training. He inspired me to start to look for other options and answers so I could help more pets in a way that I was not able to help him. It was one of those situations for him that his mind was still really pretty good up until the last several weeks, but his body was just falling apart. And so if I'd have known then what I know now, I think the last several months of his life would have been very different. So that's, I'll put another post up in a little bit that kind of gets the basic point across. And essentially what I was committing to with my own pets is to actually start meditating with them. Because that seems to help bring them down and also to help prevent them from taking on some of my own health issues, if that makes any sense. So I really believe that pets serve as an emotional buffer for us, and when we're not paying attention to what we need in our own lives, they take care of things for us that we don't even understand, I think. A couple of cool links to put up there. So we've got a couple of questions. Kelly Garrison had posted under the post we had on Facebook that let you know what time this event was going to be, and just was the New Year's celebration where people feel compelled to break out tons of fireworks. And what she writes is that her dog gets so stressed out at the sound of fireworks that she's shaking, drooling, and peeing uncontrollably. And she wants to know if there's a natural herb or remedy that may help to keep her calm. She started getting progressively worse this year, and now she's 8. And Kelly, I feel your pain. My dog Sam had the same issues, especially with thunderstorms. And so I've run the gamut of what works and what doesn't work. And if it's only fireworks and not fireworks and thunder or other noises that are a problem, hate to say it, but you may consider using something like Sileo or another prescription drug just because it's going to be for a very short period of time, and so the number of doses and things of that nature are not that high. So that's one concept. Glad to see some folks showing up. The other thing, so more of a long-term approach to noise phobia, especially if your pet has thunderstorm phobia, is certainly counter conditioning, which is a great thing to start doing this time of year because there's not that much going on storm-wise. Strangely enough, here in South Carolina, we had a thunderstorm 3 days ago, which is just beyond bizarre, but then so are a lot of things these days. But one of the best approaches I've found is using something called Liquid NutriCalm, and that's a tryptophan and theanine-based product, and it's been nothing short of amazing. Sometimes that's still not quite enough, and so another strategy you can use, especially with thunderstorm phobia, is adaptol collars. They're a pheromone-type collar, and they help to calm your pet down, calm your dog down in particular. They're great for taking the edge off. It's not a fantastic solution, but it's a start. So that's a great thing you can leave on your pet all the time because it's in a collar or a spray. And that way, if a thunderstorm rolls up, they've got something on board to help them deal with that. The next thing you can look at doing is a CALMZ vest, C-A-L-M-Z, and I'll put a link for that down in the comments below. But this thing has been very interesting. So it's a little vest that they wear around the chest, and there's a small handheld thing, not a lot bigger than the length of a cell phone and about 4 or 5 times the thickness. The thing that's really cool about it is that it vibrates, and it's sitting on several acupoints that help to calm animals and people for that matter. And then it plays Fer-de-Lys, which is one of the most researched pieces of music for calming down children that have autism, and for other types of anxiety. And then the third thing that it does is that it emits binaural tones that elicit more calming brain waves. So this research started coming out in the 90s for humans, and what was found is that you can put certain types of tones under music and it will elicit different types of brain waves. So for instance, if you're getting ready to get sleepy, they'll build in certain tones that will help to elicit the brain waves that will kind of keep you calmer and relaxed. Dr. Jeffrey Thompson did a terrific amount of work and released a tremendous number of albums based on creating different states for brain waves. So both alertness, awareness, creativity, getting into that meditative state, that sort of stuff. So that's one option for people, and then you can play that music in the background. But again, back to the Calms device, the awesome thing is that those types of tones are built in and help to get your pet down into a calmer state of being. So that's awesome. You can set it up for playing a 6-minute cycle just once, or if you're going to be out and about and your pet has separation anxiety, you can set it so that it plays a 6-minute cycle every hour for up to 8 hours. And it's really was amazing for Sam what release and relief it brought for him during the hurricane we had here in October. So I would check that out. It's a great way to help your pet get calmer without having to use any medication or drugs. So I hope that's helpful, Kelly. And good luck to you. That is a tough problem, and it does seem to get worse with age. So it's kind of like that age-old adage, if you practice something, you get better at it. And in this situation, your puppy has been practicing being worried and freaked out, and so unfortunately she's getting better and better at it. So we need to get you some strategies to help her practice being calm in the face of something that's frightening to her. So I hope that makes sense. Stacey wrote in to ask about her dog who is itchy, scratchy, and has horrible ear infections. And unfortunately, this is just a very common problem, particularly in the Southeast. Her skin's a hot mess. She's tearing out fur all over the place and really is just about miserable. And, she's trying to approach this from a more holistic avenue instead of just throwing antibiotics and steroids and things of that nature. And I get it, because yes, they will help the symptoms get better, but again, we're not getting at that root cause of what's creating the itchiness. So she's been shampooing and doing all sorts of crazy stuff, and she wonders if this sounds like a yeast or an allergy infection to me, and if the CrockPet diet will be helpful or not. And unfortunately, they are tough regardless of the approach to treating allergies. Yeast gets blamed as the cause of the misery, but in truth, it's actually a secondary invader and not a primary cause. So generally, something is wrong with the local immune system, whether that's on the skin, in the ear, what have you, that allows yeast. And for dogs and cats, it's Malassezia pachyi and not Candida. But at any rate, the setup for yeast and allergies is horrible, and so you've got this damp heat which allows the yeasties to thrive. So they don't cause the problems, but they certainly can make them worse, and they are an important thing to control to help get them better. And so this, as far as the ear infections go, what we tend to see is that if the dog has had really chronic, awful ear infections, often the eardrum is not totally competent, and so gunk gets down in the middle ear. You get the outer ear canal healed up, the eardrum seals back over, and then all this yuck that's in the middle ear just starts blowing back out and reinfecting the ear. So often what needs to be done is actually to have that pet's ear flushed under anesthesia, and then work with a veterinarian that can use video otoscopy to actually see down into the middle ear and make sure that all the yuckies that are down there are getting cleaned out. This is also going to let your veterinarian tell you whether that eardrum has a chance of healing or not. But in many cases, once we get all the yuck out of there, we can get the eardrum to heal back over, and then this dog goes back to a normal life. There's about 10% of these guys, though, where that does not happen. And so then you know you need to chronically treat this ear with products that are going to be safe to the hearing apparatus in the middle ear, so that they don't end up with worse infections. The other thing that's going to be important in that situation is to actually get a culture and sensitivity done. Shockingly, we've been seeing a lot of MRSA-type infections in the ear because we see, so many years these pets have had different antibiotics and steroids put in the ear, and so it just creates a nightmare situation. So it is important to make sure that that culture gets done so that you can get the right antibiotic for whatever bug is in there. Now that's going to help your pup feel better, but it still doesn't address what's causing all of these issues. And strangely enough, it often starts in the gut. So if we start to think about the gut as creating or holding 70% of the immune system function, if the bad guys are in charge in the gut, then your immune system is just going to do all sorts of weird things. Sometimes that shows up as gut problems, sometimes it's skin problems, ear problems, kidney problems. I mean, you guys have heard me talk about this before, so really that is one of the most important things you can do is to fix the gut. And this is where rotation and elimination diets can be very helpful. They're kind of a pain to carry off, but what the goal is to use one protein and one carbohydrate source and use 3 sets of those so that you're feeding one set every day, and then each 3 days, then you'll restart that rotation. What this allows you to do is to help your pet's immune system to calm down. It's not reacting to the same sets of proteins and antigens that it's seeing every day if you're rotating every 24 hours. The other thing this helps you do is let you know if your pet has a problem with a specific protein or carbohydrate. So that's another really great way to get clarity on what is or isn't a problem. Unfortunately, with many chronic allergies, some of it's due to environmental allergens, but some of it's due to food sensitivities or true food allergies. So because it's easier to get rid of the food sensitivity issue, this is a great way to approach figuring out what your pet is or is not sensitive to. So the beauty of the CrockPet diet is that you can adjust the recipe based on what your pet needs. For a really detailed explanation of how and why this works, plus recipes and worksheets on how to pull off a rotation and elimination diet, check out my gut health course. I'll put a link to it in the comments below. It's relatively inexpensive and can go a long way to explaining what can be helpful to help your pet stop having leaky gut syndrome issues and then reduce the inflammation and allergy symptoms, regardless of where they show up in the body, by helping the good guys, the good probiotic organisms, get back in control. So I hope that makes sense. And then lastly, we've got a question from Carl about his dog Teddy that's got a terrific amount of protein in the urine. And so this is often associated with kidney issues. While the kidney values like creatinine and BUN are still within normal limits for his dog Teddy, the urine protein to creatinine ratio, or UPC, went from 4.7, which is still quite high, as normal is somewhere less than 0.5 to 1, and on the low-protein kidney prescription diet, to an 8.7 on a home-cooked diet. And Carl, this is a really tough problem because we're trying not to limit protein in these older pets because it causes muscle wasting, and if your pet's already got some arthritis issues, it tends to make them much more unsteady. But in this situation, if that higher protein diet caused Teddy to just blow a terrific amount of protein out into the urine, that means that it's damaging the kidneys more. And so we want to help slow things down and get improved function in the kidneys and help to reduce that damage to the kidneys. So one thing you may think about is quercetin, which is typically thought of for allergies. And the thing about quercetin is that it actually prevents deposition of advanced glycosylation end products, which the acronym for is AGE or age. And this is an extremely great way to remember how kidney damage and the other parts of the aging process happens. These little molecules get attached to, in this case, the nephrons or the basement membrane of the nephrons, which is the main filtering cell in the kidney. And then once they do that, they scar those cells and render them useless. And so we start to see a decline in kidney function. What quercetin does is stop the deposition of these AGE molecules on that basement membrane so that the kidney can begin to go back to more normal function. In my practice, what we've seen is that we'll have dogs and cats that have had elevated creatinins, elevated UPCs, elevated SDMA, which is a more valid test as far as picking up early kidney disease before the creatinine values even begin to go up. And as a result of that, we're seeing those numbers actually improve. We're seeing the pets look better, feel better, and in many cases we've seen those values go back to normal over time, which is not what's supposed to happen. You know, if you talk to conventional veterinarians, they'll tell you once your dog is in stage 1 or stage 2 iris disease, same thing for cats. And once you see those values go up, it's a downhill slide from there. So this is pretty amazing that that those values are actually coming down, and we're seeing kidney value function go back to normal, which is awesome. The other thing that can be done is you can modify the original CrockPet diet to match the proteins that are in the prescription diets of the KD and that sort of stuff. So to do that, you drop essentially a pound of protein and the kidney beans from the recipe, and then be sure to use calcium citrate as it has no phosphorus, which is contained in bone meal. Then you would add in another couple of cups of vegetables and then double the carbohydrates. I go over that in great depth with the kidney disease or kidney health program I've got available, and again I'll put a link there. But those are great strategies, and then once you start to see improvements, then you could consider increasing the protein gradually and see if your pup Teddy can handle that or not. So I hope that helps you, Carl. And then Linda, great to hear from you. She's asking, should dogs still take vitamin supplement, and what do I recommend? Yes, they should. And even though if you're feeding a bag of dry food or canned or what have you, they do have vitamins built in there that bring those formulas up to minimum AAFCO standards, and that's the key word there, minimum. The other thing to remember too is that the nutritional value of those supplements are calculated before the food is processed. So because many canned foods go through a cooking process and dried foods go through a baking process, the nutritional value actually may be much less than what's stated in the bag. So that's why I feel it's still important to use some sort of a multivitamin. There's a ton of them out there. We're currently using RX Essentials, which I think has been a great product. But again, we've got a very exciting development. I've gotten a holistic total body support multivitamin produced for dogs and cats. The thing that's awesome about it is that it includes glandular materials, and so I feel like that's really a missing link for a lot of pets. We spay and neuter so early in life, and what that does is it forces the adrenal glands to take over a lot of different things they shouldn't have to take over until much later in life. So by feeding adrenal gland and liver and spleen and stomach and several others, I think that we'll be able to keep our pets' health much higher and help provide them the raw materials that those glands and organs need to succeed and to do well and keep them thriving through their lives. So Standard Process has great products. They include some things which can be allergenic, and so that's why I went ahead and developed this line of supplements. So we should have those available by the end of the year, or excuse me, the end of the month, so end of January. And check out our website at the original CrockPet Diet and kind of sign in to get information about the CrockPet Diet. That'll put you on our mailing list. So as those products come available, we'll be able to tell you about them, and then when they do become available, we'll be offering some really great deals on them. So Linda, thank you so much for that question. That's awesome. And it's one that most people don't get. The other issue with food is that most of the nutritional values were calculated for food back in the 40s, and then the soil still had quite a bit of life in it, and it truly doesn't anymore because of the conventional farming practices. So I don't think anybody has taken on that project of recalculating nutritional values in today's current foods, but that's what we got. So thanks so much for joining us. I hope this was helpful for you. Leave some comments about what day and time would work best for you. We're going to make Ask the Vet Live a weekly feature, and so definitely want to serve you as best as we can, serve your pets, and get you the answers and the help that you need. And then look for that blog post about Arnold and why he inspired me to get to change what I was doing in practice and learn alternative methods and treatments and things of that nature. So Happy New Year again to you guys. Wish you the best in the world for you and your pets. Let's make 2017 great. Thanks.